Hello, folks. Let's talk a high profile matchup, the new main event at UFC 295, where we have the light heavyweight title for the UFC up for grabs after Jamal Hill tears his Achilles. And you also have Magomed Ankalaev fighting his way back, probably running it back against Johnny Walker. But in this spot, you have Jiri Prochazka taking on Alex Pereira in what should be an extremely volatile matchup. I preface this breakdown by saying that this is an extremely volatile matchup where you have an extremely explosive fighter in Jiri Prochazka, who's now 31 years of age. He spent the last year and a half on the sideline after beating Glover Teixeira. And you talk about a mutual opponent here and folks who know Jiri Prochazka well. Glover Teixeira knew him well. And back in Danbury, Connecticut, we saw Alex Pereira putting in work. And I mean putting in work, preparing Glover Teixeira for his bout against Jiri Prochazka. And who would have thunk it? Prochazka wins that fight via submission in, I believe, the 5th round. And you have that bout. I believe Prochazka only has 3 submission victories, 25 knockout victories on his resume. And you look at how these fighters match up. You have Pereira, who's the pinpoint accurate kickboxer, 36 years of age, coming in with only an 8-2 professional mixed martial arts record. But we know the kickboxing credentials of Alex Pereira. And now he's fought in mixed martial arts Israel Adesanya a number of times, but Jiri Prochazka is no Israel Adesanya. You go back and watch Prochazka, and he puts himself on the brink of defeat numerous times in matchups and previous matchups. By the way, if you want to get a kick out of yourself here, watch CB Dalloway take on Jiri Prochazka. That was wild. But let's get back to the matter at hand here. Prochazka, you watch the Volkan Ozdemir fight. A precise striker can land and cause Prochazka fits. You watch Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes was landing, staying in the pocket with Prochazka. But one of the things about staying in the pocket with Prochazka is that you end up putting yourself at risk as well. And Prochazka's explosive. He's unpredictable. He's dynamic. And that's something that Alex Pereira can't necessarily prepare for. The intangibles that Prochazka brings to the table. I know I've seen the footage of Pereira sparring with Gregory Rodriguez. By the way, let's get Gregory Rodriguez a fight. And that being said, solid sparring partner, but there's nobody out there who's going to be able to mimic what Jiri Prochazka does. And this specific fight is interesting because we've gotten 3 minutes into the breakdown here, and we have yet to mention Jiri Prochazka's horrific shoulder injury that occurred while he was preparing for the rematch versus Glover Teixeira. They were supposed to run that fight back, and it never came to fruition, partially because in training, Prochazka suffered an injury, and apparently one of Magomed Ankalaev's partners or training partner tried to reduce the dislocation and injured the shoulder of Prochazka much more than it was already injured. And then Prochazka goes under the knife and he's subsequently rehabbed. So you have a fighter who's a year and a half removed from competing. You also have a fighter in Prochazka who is now coming off of a 5-round war against Glover Teixeira. Granted, watch that fight back. Glover had his moments, put Prochazka in some serious situations there, but Pereira doesn't possess the grappling that Glover Teixeira does. Pereira is a striker through and through, and we saw against Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva was having some success against Pereira at times. This is an interesting matchup, and I prefaced this breakdown saying it's an extremely volatile matchup, and I will say this is one of those situations where, and you've seen it play out many, many times in the past. The better fighter doesn't necessarily always win. You have to consider the odds here as well. And I believe that Pereira could come out here, and he typically does come out very, very sharp. But one thing about Pereira, if you're able to be unpredictable and catch him, you can stun him. It's almost like watching Mike Tyson's Punch Out, the way an opponent gets a start and will just freeze for a second. And Pereira, that's happened a few times in his professional career. We've seen it against Adesanya and others. So I expect Pereira to come out here guns blazing, ready to go, getting the leg kicks going, looking for that left hook that we've seen land his trademark punch many, many, many times. But I'm leaning towards the underdog here in Prochazka, partially due to the fact of the unpredictability. You look at the resume, I know it's padded, but Prochazka hasn't lost a fight since 2015. This is a fighter who finds a way to win. Some fighters simply find ways to win. And I believe that Prochazka, if he's been medically cleared for this fight and the shoulder holds up, that he's going to end up catching Pereira. This is a 5-round fight. We've seen Prochazka dig deep. We've seen both of these fighters dig extremely deep in fights. And the other thing to mention, this is up at 205 pounds. So Pereira, we know he's coming off of the win over Jan Blachowicz, but that doesn't really speak volumes to me. I know it was his first fight up at 205 pounds in the UFC, and that, Pereira cuts a lot of weight to get down to 185 pounds. And he's also a pretty big dude at light heavyweight, 6'4". Both of these fighters should size each other up very well at weigh-ins. I believe that you're going to see, 80-inch reach, and you look at the odds here, Pereira's minus 148 at the betting window. I like the underdog here to upset the apple cart and shock folks. I expect Pereira to get off to a nice start early, where he's landing and getting comfortable. And then Prochazka, we've seen, even when he's been rocked, he comes back in fights. And the killer instinct of Prochazka is something that really, really stands out to me. So I'll be picking Jiri Prochazka here. I think that it'll be interesting to see where the line goes from here. I've seen it, the ebb and flow of this betting line. But I'll be picking Jiri Prochazka to win, and to win via knockout, I'd say midway through round 2. I don't think this is going to go deep. I believe that Prochazka's willingness to go for the kill is what's going to separate these two fighters. And I know Pereira has a killer instinct as well. We've seen it many, many times, and he's able to get off to a hot start. But I think that Prochazka is going to end up catching him here. So give me Jiri Prochazka. And thanks everybody for tuning in. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing to the channel, that's big help for us as we continue to grow here. Remember, one fight at a time. And also the third-party track betting record. My betting record's found at betmma.tips. Been at this for quite some time. Am a long-term profitable bettor and handicapper, and I appreciate doing this for folks. And this is a labor of love. The passion runs deep here, so I appreciate you. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day.